Yo, how's it going, everybody? My name's Deadly Raider Army, other known as Momo. I'm on my alt right now. Today's video is going to be talking about the average spending and investing and stockpiling of guilds and how that is supposed to go, and also the hype and the bad things that go along with guild banks. Keep in mind, this is an alt. This has a alt storage guild bank of its own and a bunch of other stuff like that. Today, we're going to not only talk about the good things that go along with guild banks, but the bad as well. And I will switch through some characters so that you can see some of what I'm working with. I won't show all my characters today, like storage-wise, because it'll take way too long for me to do every single thing. But I will be showing you some of the highlights and benefits of them, and also the bad things that come along with it. Now, let me start off with prefacing that when it comes down to guild banks, I consider guild banks, in my own definition, just so that everybody's aware, I consider guild banks as it is for the people, and that means that anything that goes into the guild bank is going to be used by the guildies and or the benefit of their future. Now, granted, some people might have different definitions of these things. Some guilds like to charge their members gold. Some people like to do different things here and there with those items in order to give back to their community. We like to do multiple different things, and some of those things are usually guild events. We do care packages, which is basically where we stockpile consumes and give them out, whatever else. We take care of all that stuff. And we do giveaways and whatever here and there. We do like gnome races and other shit like that, which again is completely optional and completely done by us to obviously build retention within the guild and also to build some sort of positive reputation with the people. Now, obviously, this is an alt guild storage, but, you know, I have tabards here that I buy ahead of time, and if people need them, I mail them out. I also happen to have a stockpile of consumes that this, for example, is going to be given to each raid team in the next phase. So, for instance, in phase 2, since it'll be considered progression off the bat, the way that we go about things in our guild is we actually tell people, hey, if it's prog and it's brand new, we will supply a stockpile of potions, consumes, food buffs, whatever, and we will do whatever we can to help push the preparation and longevity of the raids. Now, keep in mind, that does not mean, however, that we are going to just randomly say, okay, you get whatever you want. No, it doesn't work that way. What we do is we put together a compiled list of what we think is fair. We then send out the consumables to the raid leaders that are in charge of that, and then obviously they distribute the consumables, and then they use it for SSC and TK. Now keep in mind that those two new raids, that's what the entire tab right here is for. This entire tab right here is designated just for one team. That means that 3 different teams, because we have 325-mans, is going to get this entire thing. Now, I've already done all the math. I've already added up all the things, and I'm not going to show the list because it takes way too long for me to switch stuff for that. But I will read off some of the things that are in here just so that you guys are on the same page. There's Brilliant Wizard Oil, Brilliant Mana Oil, Super Mana Potions, Golden Fish Sticks, Field Repair Bots, Destruction Potions, Haste Potions, Elixir of Dranic Wisdom, Bottled Nethergoon Vapor. I do also have the mana version of that, but I didn't want to put it in there because, again, too much space. Living Action Potions, Iron Shield Potion, Warp Burger, Rose Cleft Hoof, Storm Chops, Kibler's Bits, Spicy Crawdad, Free Action Potion. The list goes on. There is tons and tons and tons of things in here. Now, you're probably going to ask yourself, well, in my guild, we're supposed to bring all of our consumes. Well, again, depends on the type of guild. Some guilds will force you to bring your own consumables, at least the bare minimum. Most hardcore guilds, they'll tell you to bring, flasks. They'll tell you to bring their best food buffs imaginable. You get the point. The definition of what raiding is entitled to be. Like, you should be bringing your consumes. The reason why we supply it is because we want to beat the middleman. We don't want our guildies going to the auction house and burning gold last minute trying to get consumables. We prefer our guildies sending in support. Now, granted, not everybody sends in support. Some guildies do, some guildies don't. When we get items sent in, we usually take care of it, we reinvest it, and then we actually buy stuff and send it out. I do have a lot of stuff to prove that we do what we do with our stuff when we send stuff out. So if anybody would like that, I could actually go through and make a video on that just to kind of showcase all the different stuff we give out. We have a bank request channel actually in our Discord, which when people usually request stuff, 90% of the time we usually accept. 10% of the time we disagree or we don't allow it, only because sometimes people will request stuff as they join a guild and they don't actually understand the things that go into it. Now, this obviously, like I said, is just an example of what we do to help out the raid teams. We even have a tab that gives out bags, standard for guilds, right? When it comes down to investments, I have things that I don't even give a shit about that I don't check every 5 minutes. I have tons of Demon Slayer swords that I bought for literally almost above the vendor price on the auction house during Classic, which I'm holding on to as a potential optional investment. And worst case scenario, just like I said, I could just mass disenchant them, doesn't bother me. I'm always holding on to cosmetics. I'm always investing in them. I'm always selling them. They always sell. I always make a good amount of gold on it. And in regards to what the guild gets out of this is that I could go on the main guild bank character, for example. This is the main character that was used during the classic situation before TBC. And what I usually do is I usually say to people, hey, if it doesn't fit in the guild bank, mail it to this character. Now, granted, I'm usually, like I said, one of the only people doing that, but again, like, this character's bank is not made to look nice. The whole point of this character is to be a back and forth depositing character and moving items. Now, this is a donation tab. This is literally all its intention is to just see things go in. Obviously, I empty this thing out on a regular basis. Some guildies will put in stuff, they'll help out, donate, whatever. They don't have to, but sometimes it happens. In regards to this, I usually just fill this up with primals. This, we usually take out motes and we replace them with primals, like the actual main thing, so that way it doesn't fill up the entire tab. And then, of course, again, I just randomly fill shit in here to make it look nice. I do have piles of herbs, and I have piles of dream foil and other shit like that that are in a different storage in a mail. I have investments in guild events that we do where we give away shit all the time. I got Skull Flames from back then as well. And on a usual occasion, I usually deposit gold to replenish the guild bank. I've spent thousands upon thousands of gold, obviously trying to get this set up. I do deposit gold back as we're using it to invest, and then we usually withdraw it here and there, and we put in more gold as we go on. Now, you're probably going to ask yourself, do you need to do all this for a guild? Not really, no. If you are not the type of person that enjoys to do a lot of different things, like if you don't like to go around and do a lot of auction house management, do a lot of storage management, a lot of item mailing back and forth every 30 days, and you don't like to do that type of thing, maybe you won't want to do the scale that we have. Now, I say that because, obviously, again, without context, people won't understand the amount of moving of stuff that I do. Now, granted, the average person doesn't see how much I do, so I'm just going to give you guys an example. We have the main guild bank. We have, let me just check here. We have 8 alt guilds, okay? They all have 3 tabs each. Now, you're probably going to say, why 3 tabs each? The main guild has 4, just because of aesthetics. Number one, the cost goes up per tab. It's not worth spending the money. I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, if you get so much gold and you spend so much gold, why wouldn't you want to buy it? That one tab for an extra so-and-so thousands of gold ain't worth it. It really isn't. You're better off just making another character, making another guild bank, and doing the first 3 tabs. Because it's 100, then 250, then 500, then 1,000, and then 2,500, then 5K. It's not worth it. So, with that being said, you're probably going to say, well, Momo, hold on a minute. Why do we care about guild banks for guilds? I've had bad experiences with them. Okay, well, I understand your concern. I do. But I also want to point out the benefits and the negatives that come along with guild banks. One good thing with guild banks is that it offers a lot of transparency with the raiding scene. You have guildies that sometimes really want to help out in the raiding, but they also don't want to go out and get their enchants from the auction house. They say, oh, I can't get my enchants. I can't get my enchants, Momo. I can't do it. Okay, well, if you can't get your enchants, come to the guild. Now, granted, I know a lot of people probably have had guilds fuck them over on their enchants or items. I've had stories told to me by other people. I've seen it. People have said, oh, well, you know, some officer at a guild, you know, mutinied and took all the stuff in the bank. And I've had that happen to me, too. Years back, I've actually had some officers who have done that to me. And, you know, I've learned from those things. So that's why I'm usually the only one that does take care of the bank. Now, of course, I've also heard the same stories of, oh, the GM took advantage, blah, 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 blah. I've heard that story, too. I have heard tons and tons of stories. Now, you're probably going to say, well, why would I ever want to, you know, trust a guild bank to have the best interest for me? And the answer I have to that is not because of the fact that you should trust the guild bank by default. What I'm simply stating is that the benefits of a guild bank that can be trusted and that a guild functions with a guild bank of, you know, of the magnitude that I do it, you can really push mountains. Now, I say that because my guild bank that I set up for the guild, I actually invested in thousands of things before TBC. Now, I'm not going to, again, go over every little item. I can gladly make a video and talk about all that at a later time, but I'm going to just give you guys a few examples because, again, I don't want this video to take way too long to explain a couple basic things. During Classic, just Classic alone, as an investment for TBC, to sell and or to flip and or to reinvest in things in TBC, and to spend on the guild and everything else, I bought over 20,000 thorium ore, 10,000 mithril ore, 10,000 iron ore, 5,000 tin, and so on. Like, the list goes down the line. Like, I've invested in literally almost every single item in Classic. I have invested in things that are in TBC that are good from Classic that people use in TBC. Like protection potions from the greater version compared to the TBC version. They're almost literally like a huge difference in cost, but the usage of it is still going to be beneficial for you in any sort of raiding scene, because why burn the money? Now, you're probably going to also say to me, well, Momo, if you have so much gold, why don't you just spend it all in the auction house right now? Like, why don't you just buy everything you need? Well, the issue here is that I don't want to spend the gold every 5 minutes. I want the gold to be available. That way, if I see something that I really want to buy to hold on to for later, I can do that. Now, some of you also are probably saying, well, Momo, how can you even earn so much gold? You must do some things that are shady to get that gold. I can assure you that any investment that I have done on the auction house is where most of the gold comes from. I invest in things, I sell them later, I buy things on the auction house, and then I hold it for months. Sometimes I sell things in a week, sometimes I do day flips, but for the most part, they're things that are longevity oriented. I'll give you an example. I actually have in the storage over 600 plus of the spot filters. As you can see by my add-on right here, I have 694 of them. I paid around 1 gold to 1 gold 30, I guess you could say, for each of them. In this next phase that we're going to have, we're going to end up in a situation where we're going to be able to turn those into 6 pieces of food per. Now, granted, you need to buy a couple food things from a vendor and then craft them, but that 700 is times 6. That is a fuck ton of food buffs. Now, you're probably going to say, well, Momo, are you going to sell them all? Hell no, I'm not. I'm buying those to give to the guildies, for the raid teams, for the tanks. That way, the entirety of TBC, they will never need to buy 30 stam food. They'll never need to worry about it. And God forbid, if there's a fight that ever does too much damage, I could give them out to anybody. So the whole thing of what I do is to try to help as many people as possible. Sure, it might not be the #1 most effective thing, but I do try to do as much as I can possible. Again, I have way too many characters, as you can see, to count. I even do some investments on the auction house on the Horde side to kind of see what's going on with the market flips. I do everything I can to help the guildies. Now, again, I am the odd one out here. I have heard stories from other people who have said, oh, well, this GM or this guild or whatever. Again, I've heard the stories that they have mistreated people, and someone who I've talked to actually on a regular basis, who I'm not afraid to name drop it. It's a positive person. He's a great guy. His name's No Hit Jerome. He's a great guy. He recently had his guild bank screwed over, and I don't know the simplicities of who the person is. I don't know any details about why it would happen. However, I do understand that giving that trust to anybody is a huge undertaking, and I could totally sympathize with being, basically shocked out of your mind with the idea that someone would do that to you. I've had that situation happen to me, and I totally sympathize on that. So all I'm trying to get at here, when I say the good and the bad with guild banks, is don't be fully trusting in guild banks, but also don't just say all guilds are bad, all guilds are this because you had a bad experience. The whole point of today's video is more or less just to touch base on the basics, to understand why they exist, the good, the bad, overall. And sure, smaller guilds might offer you guild repairs. Sure, larger guilds might do the same thing. Some guilds might require you to pay for consumes and shit like that. We don't do that. We try to do our own thing and try to make it unique and keep the OG way of thinking of this game alive. So, without making this video go too long, that's all I have for this video. I will gladly make a more in-depth guide to guild banks and also to guild storages, investments in the guild banks, and all that type of stuff. If you guys would like that type of video, please let me know down below. I really appreciate it. I will also probably make another video today on a different topic. I don't know yet. Just depends on my schedule. With that being said, thank you very much for stopping in. I really appreciate it. And you guys all have a wonderful afternoon. All right, peace.